Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Russian forces are sustaining a multi-directional offensive with synchronized artillery, air support, and EW suppression. The liberation of Suvorovo and Nikanorovka signals continued erosion of Ukrainian defensive coherence in the Donetsk theater. Ukrainian forces are increasingly reliant on NATO-supplied artillery and vehicles, which are being systematically targeted, reducing their long-term fire support capacity. High rates of EW system destruction indicate a deliberate effort to blind Ukrainian reconnaissance and disrupt command and control. The cumulative attrition, over 1,375 Ukrainian personnel eliminated in one day, suggests ongoing pressure that may overmatch Ukraine's replacement rate.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Oguntoye, let's start with the big picture. What's the operational status as of August 13th?
The front remains active on all major axes, with coordinated actions across the north, west, south, center, east, and Dnieper sectors. Our operational tempo is deliberately high, designed to keep Ukrainian forces off balance and force them to respond to multiple simultaneous threats. In the north, we've been engaging heavy mechanized and mechanized brigades, ranger units, and assault regiments, disrupting their ability to mass forces in Sumy and Kharkiv. We're also seeing steady attrition of their artillery assets and command and control systems. For example, in these northern operations alone, 3 field artillery guns, an electronic warfare station, and several ammunition depots were neutralized. This kind of sustained targeting wears down both their combat effectiveness and their logistical backbone.
You mentioned gains in the west and center. Can you walk us through those sectors?
In the west, we have seized tactically advantageous positions, especially in contested areas of Donetsk and Luhansk. This is not just about the terrain, it's about the geometry of firepower. By taking elevated positions and interdicting supply routes, we can control how the Ukrainian side moves and resupplies.
And the center group of forces?
The center sector is where we achieved notable breakthroughs, liberating Suvorovo and Nikanorovka. These were not accidental gains, they were the result of combined arms coordination, mechanized infantry, artillery, air assets, and engineering units working in sequence. That sector also saw the highest Ukrainian personnel losses of the day, with over 385 troops eliminated and multiple armored vehicles destroyed. Such losses have an immediate battlefield impact, but they also ripple into their operational planning for the coming weeks.
And in terms of deep operations, how are things shaping up in the east and DNEPR areas?
In the east, we're conducting penetrations designed to unravel their layered defenses. This is where operational art comes into play, knowing when to press, when to exploit a gap, and when to consolidate gains. Ukrainian artillery, including Polish-made Crab systems, was destroyed here. That's significant because counter-battery fire is one of their few remaining tools to slow our momentum.
And the Dnipro group of forces?
In the Dnieper sector, the focus has been on neutralizing coastal defense and mechanized brigades, along with their EW capabilities. The destruction of the domestically produced Bogdana artillery piece is notable. Ukraine has a limited production run of these, and losing even one reduces their ability to sustain fire in that theater.
Looking at the numbers, over 1,375 Ukrainian personnel lost in a single day. What does that tell you about sustainability?
It tells us 2 things. First, that our operational pressure is producing significant attritional effects. Second, that Ukraine's ability to replace losses, both in manpower and critical equipment, is being tested at a scale and speed that will be difficult to sustain. When you combine daily losses like this with the ongoing destruction of artillery, EW stations, and logistics nodes, you create conditions where the opponent is constantly fighting from a deficit. If current trends hold, we will see Ukrainian defenses in certain sectors begin to hollow out, not from one decisive battle, but from the cumulative effect of sustained multi-sector pressure. Tactically, this could open corridors for deeper exploitation into operational rear areas. Strategically, the erosion of their high-value systems, artillery, EW, and armored platforms could shift the negotiation balance in our favor within the next operational cycle.
Colonel Oguntoye, the ISW, reports that Russian forces advanced about 110 square kilometers in a single day. Can you put this into operational context for us?
Yes. An advance of that scale in just 24 hours represents an exceptional operational tempo. Normally, even under favorable conditions, achieving that footprint would require 5 to 7 days of coordinated combat operations. It's not just about covering ground, it's about dislocating enemy defenses, sustaining momentum, and securing new lines before the opponent can counterattack. What makes this particularly noteworthy is that it wasn't achieved in a vacuum, it came against established Ukrainian defensive zones. The speed of the advance suggests that those positions were not only penetrated but were structurally compromised, likely due to attrition, logistical shortages, and gaps in force deployment.
The ISW has historically been skeptical about Russian advances. Why do you think they're acknowledging this particular gain?
ISW has a track record of applying a politically weighted lens, but even heavily critical institutions have to acknowledge undeniable battlefield realities. When a line begins to collapse in multiple sectors, not just at a single breakthrough point, the data is harder to dismiss. Here, the combination of satellite imagery, on-the-ground reporting, and Ukrainian operational withdrawals made the situation plain. This isn't just about kilometers gained, it's about the structural degradation of the defensive belt in those areas. Even ISW's own models likely indicated a sudden spike in rate of advance metrics, making it impossible to write off as localized or temporary.
What factors on the ground could explain why this was possible now, rather than earlier in the campaign?
It comes down to three main factors: sustained attritional pressure over preceding weeks, intelligent operational timing, and the exploitation of gaps in manpower. Ukrainian forces have been taking steady losses, both in personnel and in critical enabling systems like artillery and electronic warfare assets. When those losses reach a threshold, certain sectors lose depth and resilience. Operational timing also played a role. We've seen a coordinated push across multiple axes, forcing Ukraine to disperse reserves and limiting their ability to mount concentrated counteractions. This sets conditions where one or two sectors can experience disproportionate gains if hit at the right moment.
Does this pace suggest that Ukraine's defensive line could collapse more broadly?
It suggests that in certain large area sectors, collapse is not only possible but increasingly probable unless they can quickly reinforce or reconstitute their defenses. When a defensive grid starts to unravel in contiguous zones, you risk triggering operational level retreats, not just tactical withdrawals. That, in turn, creates opportunities for the attacker to move from contested terrain into operational rear areas with minimal resistance.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. This advance is more than a statistical anomaly, it's an inflection point. Tactically, it shows that sustained, multi-sector pressure can culminate in sudden, large-scale territorial gains, even in fortified zones. Strategically, it pressures Ukraine to commit reserves earlier than planned and stretches already depleted manpower. If the pace is sustained, negotiations could shift on terms more favorable to Russia, as territorial control becomes a decisive bargaining chip.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.